We have the video for hair originals.
मगर आज के समय में जब लाइफस्टाइल इश्यूज जैसे कि स्ट्रेस, पोल्यूशन या फिर टर्मिनल इश्यूज, हेयर लॉस एक बहुत बड़ा इश्यू आज की दुनिया में है और लाखों करोड़ों लोग इससे जूझ रहे हैं। इमेजिन करें कि अगर एक मैजिक मिरर हो हमारे पास, एक ऐसा मैजिक मिरर जिसमें हम जैसा अपना लुक चाहें वैसा हम उसमें देख सकते हैं। अभी तक तो ये मैजिक मिरर एक कल्पना रहा है, लेकिन अब इस मैजिक मिरर को हम आपके पास लेकर आ रहे हैं।
ओरिजिनल्स इंडिया का पहला ऐसा ब्रांड है जो 100% नेचुरल ह्यूमन हेयर एक्सटेंशंस को मैन्युफैक्चर करता है। डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ हेयर एक्सटेंशंस जैसे परमानेंट हेयर एक्सटेंशंस जो कि सबसे ज्यादा मार्केट में डिमांड में रहते हैं, टेम्परेरी हेयर एक्सटेंशंस जो DIY काइंड ऑफ एक्सटेंशंस होते हैं, और विग्स। ये सारी कैटेगरीज को हम मैन्युफैक्चर करते हैं और एंड कंज्यूमर तक पहुंचाते हैं।
अब ये तो ठीक है, लेकिन उत्तर प्रदेश के एक छोटे से शहर अलीगढ़ में रहने वाली एक लड़की राधिका को अगर ये परमानेंट नेचुरल हेयर एक्सटेंशंस कराने हो तो वो सही दाम पर 100% नेचुरल क्वालिटी प्रोडक्ट कहां से ले?
राधिका सिर्फ और सिर्फ अलीगढ़ में बैठकर ऑनलाइन हमारे वेबसाइट को ओपन करती है और उसका जो भी मनपसंद हेयर एक्सटेंशन है वो चूज करती है और परचेज कर सकती है। बस यही नहीं, प्रोडक्ट खरीदने के साथ साथ वो इनफैक्ट सैलून भी चूज कर सकती है अलीगढ़ का, जहां पे उसको फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट एक्सटेंशन का इंस्टॉलेशन प्रोवाइड किया जाता है हमारी तरफ से।
यानी कि एंड टू एंड सोल्यूशन मार्केट के कॉस्ट से 1/3 प्राइस पर। भारत से हर साल अरबों खरबों का रॉ मटेरियल ह्यूमन हेयर पूरी दुनिया में एक्सपोर्ट किया जाता है, क्योंकि भारत पूरी दुनिया में अकेला इसका एकमात्र एथिकल सोर्स है। वो एथिकल सोर्स है हमारे भारत के मंदिर, टेम्पल्स, जहां लोग अपने हेयर डोनेट करते हैं। हमारा विजन है कि हम इस सोर्स पे बैठ के हेयर ओरिजिनल्स को एक ग्लोबल ब्रांड बनाएं और दुनिया भर के कस्टमर्स तक हमारी वो चांदी रखी हुई है। एक्चुअली इस प्रोडक्ट की B2C कॉस्ट मार्केट में, US में हर जगह चांदी से ज्यादा है।
अरे वाह,
पर ग्राम।
तो ये एक हाई वैल्यू प्रोडक्ट। तो हम लोगों ने जस्ट बिफोर कोविड यानी कि अराउंड दिसंबर 2019 से मार्केट में शुरू किया। उससे पहले 2-2.5 साल की रिसर्च। तो अगर हम इसी क्वार्टर की, इसी फाइनेंशियल ईयर की बात करें तो पिछले करीब 5 महीने में हमने 2.5 करोड़ के आसपास का हमारा सेल्स है।
पिछले महीने कितना किया?
पिछले महीने हम अराउंड 55 lakhs के आसपास थे।
तो इसकी आप सोर्सिंग कहाँ से करते हैं और मैन्युफैक्चरिंग और सोर्सिंग मिला के क्या कॉस्ट आती है, मार्जिन क्या है इसमें?
ओके, तो अगर हम सोर्सिंग की बात करें तो सोर्सिंग प्राइमरीली हम साउथ के टेम्पल से करते हैं। मैन्युफैक्चरिंग प्रोसेस हमने गुड़गांव में सेटअप किया हुआ है। तो जहां तक बात रही मार्जिन्स की, तो मार्जिन्स, ग्रॉस मार्जिन्स लगभग 60 to 65% इसमें
जरूरत ही नहीं है।
जितेंद्र, देख तो
जितेंद्र सर, आपको
एक मिनट रुक जा। जितेंद्र, तू स्मार्ट लड़का है, देख अब तेरे को ही पता है वैलिडेशन जरूरी होती है। तू यहाँ पे आया, तेरे को 5 जज से वैलिडेशन मिल गई, ठीक है, टीवी पे वैलिडेशन मिल गई, तो अब तो कुछ सवाल बचा नहीं ना, ब्रांडिंग तो हो गई ना।
साथ
विनीता और मेरा काउंटर, हम लोग दोनों 4% पे आते हैं। बोल हाँ या ना?
डील एक साइड है,
यार विनीता नहीं ले रहा,
फाउंडर एक साइड है।
अब आप लोग क्या दोनों अपना कुछ, जैसे आप काउंटर ऑफर दे रहे थे, आप बता सकते हैं क्या अपना?
मैं और विनीता बोल
भाई उसको
बोल हाँ या ना?
उसका काउंटर तो सुन
हाँ या ना? मैं और विनीता 4%।
ऐसे नहीं होता है, बंदूक रख के थोड़ा वो
उसको रिस्पेक्ट, इज्जत तो दो यार। वो कोई जो इन्वेस्टर आपको इज्जत नहीं देता उससे आप डील करोगे, क्या कमाल है।
एक सेकंड, आप अपना काउंटर ऑफर करिए पहले, जो अब ओरिजिनल बात थी।
मैं और विनीता 4%।
क्या अश्नीर, अनुपम, पीयूष, 4% का काउंटर ऑफर आप भी एक्सेप्ट करते हैं?
हाँ, एक्सेप्टेड, डन।
hair originals for you.
Good evening, everyone. So, just to give you my background, because I think you already got a bit of what we are doing, and then we'll explain. So, my name is Jitendra Sharma. I have done my chemical engineering from IIT Delhi in 2008. For 11 years, I've worked in oil and gas industry, worked around in 40+ countries all across the globe, and now I'm selling hair. Thanks. So why I am selling hair is something I want to discuss here, although you got some of the idea. Basically, we are talking about a $14 billion human hair industry globally, which is increasing at a CAGR of 12.8%. There are some particular industries, or I would say services, if you add name of India to it, the value proposition increases, like yoga, Ayurveda. Hair is one other thing. So basically, if you talk about in developed countries, anywhere else, when people already have a perception about Indian hair, and that is why I always believe, and we said there also, that if ever any global cosmetic or beauty brand which can go out from India and do the wonders globally, that can only be in this sector. Whether it's us, somebody else, time will tell. Okay, so I think we all already saw basically primarily why we are talking about human hair and how India comes into the picture. I'll first talk just about it very briefly. India is the only country in the world. So basically, if you see in India, is the only country where you have the tradition of women donating hair in the southern part of India. There are so many women in this room. If I ask them, I want to pay, would you want to donate your complete hair? Nobody would want to, even at any price, right? That's why the value proposition comes for India. That's why people are ready to pay any price, whether it is in US, Europe, everywhere in the world. So let's talk why basically human hair and what, why this whole industry and what are the target audiences like. So there are two types of target audience. One target audience is a necessity segment, which is basically you can say hair loss segment. Any women who is having any hair loss issues or any terminal issues like cancer, alopecia, or like pregnancy and even post-COVID, lot of hair loss issues. So that is the one TG that we want to address, or this particular industry address. Second thing is the aspirational fashion segment. We'll just play a small video also after this. So what sort of aspirational fashion segment? Any women who wants to have longer hair, or let's say desired length, or more volume, desired hair volume, or the most important thing, getting the hair color, but the chemical-free alternative to hair color. You might want to get the hair color done. You can get it once, twice, but eventually it's your own hair which is getting damaged. Like we see in the developed countries now, the concept is, why do you damage your own hair when you have the natural hair extensions and you can get it done, even permanently? So get them done on them, and then you can change whatever way you want in how many months you want. So that is primarily the segment. Maybe after this, I'll just put the video of it to show how are the transformations like. So just quickly to tell you about, so what are the problem statements? So basically, as we talked about, we have a temporary and DIY hair extension segment, which is somebody can buy and directly use, or we can push it through content. People can learn how to use them. For example, there are solutions for even hair loss. Women feel thinning, but there are products which they can use and can act as faux scalp and are the only non-surgical option available to them. So those are the things people can buy and use, but there are also the products which need service of a salon or a stylist. So basically in this whole ecosystem, salons or stylists are also one of the stakeholders. So what are the problems we identified while going into this journey? So for the salons, because again, as you must have seen in the video, we are talking about a black gold here. I'm sitting in Surat, which is known for diamond, and we are talking about a pretty much our jewelry segment. Our average order values are around 15,000 rupees, and we are talking of a product category of 100 grams. So effectively, our end goal is to do our direct to consumer in the US, sitting from India. So talking about salons, because it's an expensive product, so they don't want to make a lot of inventory of that. The second thing is, it's still a very new category creation within India. So a lot of training skills are to be needed for that, how to do all those different type of permanent extensions. For end consumers, there are AAA problems, we can say. One is people still are not aware about the solutions available. Second is, even if somebody wants to get it done, let's say in Surat today, then how and where they get the right product at the right price, and then where do they get it installed? The third problem is obviously because there is typically no brand creation as such. So there are inconsistent prices. There is no price parity that obviously exists. So basically, if we look at the solution side of it, what we try to do, and I'll not take much time on it because I explained pretty much on that video, we have created an ecosystem also on the website where people can buy the product directly from our website and can also get the free installation in the city wherever they want. Now let's talk a little about global scenarios. For example, this is the existing value chain. There are small vendors who are doing it. People are making small margins, considering it as cash cows. There are startups in the US making $100 million revenues by getting hair from India. Nobody has been doing it from India, so I decided, after visiting all of the world, let me try to do that. Okay, so there are temples, then there are hoarders, then there are hair extension vendors, then there are distributors outside of the countries, then there are salons, then there are consumers. Our value proposition globally is that from the temples, we have been manufacturing directly all of it, the whole supply chain, procurement, manufacturing at our own ends, and then we are getting the salons on board also as partner salons with whom we share the revenues, and end consumer can directly book the end-to-end service through our website, and we share the revenues with the salons. So effectively, you can, so many middlemen have been removed from this value chain. So we are basically able to price the right product, even globally, at less than half the cost and with the best quality product. One thing which we realized as the challenge or the interesting aspect is when we talk about manufacturing is pretty much like very labor-driven thing. So a lot of things has to be worked on the automation side, and that is where typically we have been working, and we are planning to bring in robotics and automation arms to make that happen. So as we talked about a gross margin, we talk about very high gross margins here. That's why to do a direct to consumer always becomes very interesting. If you consider the cost per weight aspect, we're typically talking of a typically a jewelry segment, and that can be exported anywhere to the world direct to consumer. We are already doing exports also. 23% is already of our exports. This is something we eventually want to do primarily to the North American market, but this is something what automatically keeps on happening to us. And eventually at some point we want to do, probably after 12 to 18 months, we want to completely focus on the US markets also after the Indian markets. So we are raising $2 million in the current round. We already have most of that committed. And one of the person who has majorly been doing it is the father of startup, Mr. Sanjeev Bikhchandani, InfoEdge. So that is typically is all about it. I would just say this is one social aspect what we talk about, because typically this is a product where the raw material also comes from the women, and end user is a woman. So in our manufacturing processes, we also have been skilling the women who actually are working at houses and all, and they're actually working in our factories. And so our vision goes like from the women, by the women, for the women. Thank you. I'm up for questions.
Hi.
Hi.
Great presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
So I think I saw your CAC being 5,200.
Yeah.
So could you just elaborate on how do you acquire your customers and why is your CAC so high?
So basically, CAC is something where we are getting, so I think I forgot to mention that part also. So the way we are getting our customers are obviously, one is through the partner salons, basically through Salons network. Second is directly through our website. We are not yet on the marketplaces. So to acquire the customer through website, basically through Facebook ads and all of those, that is typically is the current cost we are getting. But if you see the average order value we are getting is 1,200 rupees. So that is typically a very good number also to begin with for talking about the CAC. And LTV of our product is pretty high. It is somewhere around 30,000 rupees because we are creating a captive audience. The consumer has to get a reservice done every 3 months or 4 months. So typically that is the current cost to get a 12,000 order value is 5,200 what we are seeing today. So percentage of customers, typically they obviously do, the repeat happens within a year. That's what we see. So obviously D2C we have started 4 months, and also I can't give that number, but it's very obviously at 5% or something like this today. But a better answer can come maybe after when we have done the cycle of that. But typically that should be 10 to 15% to begin with. So basically that's the best, that's the reason why people are ready to pay the price for the natural hair, natural human hair.
Yeah, but then, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but then how do you compare what's already there on the person's scalp, on the head, versus what you're going to offer? There needs to be a comparison done before your process starts.
Yeah, so basically for some of things with the natural hair, first of all, any color can be done, like you can do any process on your own hair, that all can be done. So typically if they are getting it done through a partner salon, then obviously the coloring and everything would be done in front of them like they get it done in a salon. So that all can be typically merged. Otherwise, obviously, if there are, for most of the products, you know, there are L'Oreal's references like people do. And that is the references we have created. People around the world use that, let's say L'Oreal 7.3 or whatever, and those references are something what we used to.
Last question, is your pricing based on the area covered or how does it work?
No, so basically pricing typically depends on the length of the hair you want. When we talk about the what length, so we can easily, I mean, just to understand, when you're procuring, so to get a longer length of hair obviously is a little more difficult. So obviously pricing increases with the length. So length is one of the SKU here.
At Shark Tank, you said in 6 months you got about 2.5 crores of
Yeah.
revenue. Post Shark Tank, how's your journey been?
So basically, what we have realized, journey has been really good. In fact, since this is a new category creation, so what we have started to feel, it's like when people say Godrej ki almari. So now people say hair extensions is hair originals. That is one thing we realized. Talking about revenue, so we are doing typically around 70 to 80 lakhs, but that is one reason what we have realized is that we have got commitments or orders from all across the globe. The point is, as I mentioned, we have a very labor-driven industry. So what we have been working on, we know demand is everywhere in the world. We have even served to Afghanistan and Iraqs. So one thing what we realize is to automate on the manufacturing process and go further. That is where, but to talk about this, we already are, at least we got from 45 countries, we have got distributorship offers, and we are still evaluating how we go about them because obviously too many things at one time on the plate.
How
Yeah.
will you ensure that you will continuously get the original hair? There might be, because once the business model will evolve, probably there might be other to again go back to some that practices of acquiring that hair, original hair, because it's a crucial element, right?
Yeah. So basically, as this is driven by spirituality, as we would say. So that is something. Obviously, first case is dependent on how spirituality would lead to.
Right.
But again, that is we are talking about a huge amount of again procurement. But then there is a second way to it, which we already have been developing, and not us, obviously, industry also.
Right.
Is that every day when you comb your hair, there is some part of the hair which actually gets fallen. And if you would have seen already in smaller villages, there are people who are already going to collect it. What happens in this particular thing is this whole collected hair goes to Kolkata or Bengal rather, and then is smuggled to China and Myanmar. We are talking about a real huge industry, and this is only one industry or one of the few where China is dependent on India for raw materials. So that's why we always talk about making a global demand. So that is something, obviously that is a product which can be made a lesser cost, again 100% natural, but that is, and you will keep losing hair, people will keep getting born, people will keep having hair, will fall, so that is another procurement aspect, and again that is when we reach that scale, in general this industry is obviously, hair will always be there, and we always have a solution to get that.
Hello. Thanks,
Yeah, how your supply chain works, how you procure from temples.
Okay, so from temples, there are two type of temples you can say currently. One is the big organized temples like Tirupati. Tirupati has typical auction boards where they do, 600 to 800 crores of hair, so those are the one very organized. You can consider it as a stock exchange for hair. They keep changing the prices also. The second thing is renting the temple concept. There are smaller temples, and actually people are renting the whole temple for an year and then taking care of the raw material and all. They're even organizing events so that they get more people to donate. So those are the kind of things basically on the procurement side. And obviously after that there are different segregations to be done. For example, you need to separate with the colors and all of that. We plan to bring image sensing and a lot of those to do, because currently that all also is being done manually. That is the biggest value proposition which is we are going to create.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello. Yeah, this sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want, what is your manufacturing process that currently, which I come to know from the speech is the manufacturing is taking more of the time rather than the selling point of view. So what you have been working upon so that you can increase the manufacturing or the production part of the thing?
So let me answer it in very simple manner. What happens today when we talk to a lot of US big distributors, what they say that you get the best quality of hair, I mean, in the country specific. So what happens is a lot of people have been taking that hair, US people and all, and then have been sending it across to China to get it processed. So some of the processes are done in terms of automating in the machines and all, and actually they can be done. We have already worked on those things. So what our main objective is to automate it. Today we can do a 3x, 4x, 5x in things, but we have realized the demand is huge, and we have realized we are going on the right path. But just basically to got those processes, automations done, bringing in the robotics. Just to give you an example, a question people ask us why we don't enter into the men field yet, the men section. To make that particular product, today it takes around 2 to 3 days for one person. We don't want to enter into the market when we are taking that much time. We want to bring the robotics arm. We have already worked out on the processes, and when we are able to make 100 machines per day, that is a day I'll enter into the men's thing, and then we'll disrupt with the pricings and all also. So that is basically the manufacturing process. And that is one of the reason and one of the allocations of the funds we are going to put across.